Episode 1. The journey begins. This is Jacksonville Beach, a place typically known for clear skies and calm waves. However, today, the sky is full of a mysterious fog, and the waves crash back and forth chaotically. My name's Karate Kieth, and for the past 2 years, I've devoted a large chunk of my life to being a karateka. I've endured many lonely days and a lot of physical hardship, with the hope of one day having the grand opportunity of competing on the world stage. But in order to achieve a goal this lofty, it requires intense training and skill development. That's why, for the next 30 days, I've decided to study 2 prominent fighters within their own discipline and respect. The first is Kenji Midori, otherwise known as the Tiny Giant. Kenji Midori is one of the strongest fighters Kyokushin Karate has ever produced. Standing at a height of only 5'5", he's won multiple titles, including a world title, and is still seen as one of the strongest Kyokushin fighters to have ever lived. The second fighter, at one point, was the heavyweight boxing champion of the entire world, Iron Mike Tyson. Standing at a height of only 5'10", Mike Tyson dominated the heavyweight boxing world with more than 50 wins, 40 of them at least by knockout. By studying the strength Kenji Midori demonstrated in Kyokushin, and by studying the speed and power Mike Tyson demonstrated in boxing, I may be able to develop intense workout routines that focus on Kyokushin principles and peekaboo boxing, therefore giving me the opportunity to grow my strength, size, and fighting ability. So, this is day 1. For the first 10 days, we're focusing a lot on building strength and fight mechanics. But before we can do any of that, we need to have a workspace, or what I like to call the workbox. Now, it's important to remember that you should be basing the size of your workbox based off of your own needs. In my own case, I've sectioned off a small rectangular box within my workspace to use for push-ups, jump squats, and other fighting mechanics. Now, to start this workout, we're doing 300 jump squats. It's important to remember the reason we're doing an exercise like this at such a high amount is because one of the base foundations for both Kenji Midori and Mike Tyson was their leg strength. Now, the way we're breaking this exercise down is by doing it in 6 sets of 50. We're giving ourselves a 20-second rest in between sets if we need it. Don't jump too high either. Do this at your own pace. And if you want to make things a little more difficult, make each squat slightly deeper. Next, we're doing 300 push-ups. I'd like to think that at this point it's common knowledge that most fighters do road work and push-ups. But we're going to be doing these push-ups in 6 sets of 50. We're doing knuckles for the first 100. And remember to breathe. Remember that whatever pace you set is the pace you should stick to. And try not to drop to the ground like I did at the very end. Next, I'm doing a form of conditioning called kotekitai. It stands for arm conditioning. It's a form of conditioning still used in various forms of karate styles, including Kyokushin. I wouldn't really recommend this for anyone though, unless you've been trained in it long enough to have a tolerance for it. And remember, the key word is trained. That means from an actual sensei or shihan who can properly show you what to do, so that way you're not just hurting yourself. After we've done kotekitai, we're moving on to something called kararakitai, which is similar, but instead we're working the abs. Again, I wouldn't recommend this for anyone that hasn't received proper training on how to do it. And yes, it hurts a lot. But we're not stopping there, because this is one of my favorite exercises called leg breakers. This isn't obviously the original name of something like this, but it's the one that I can remember the most. I'm hitting 50 times on each side, and I'm not trying to make this out to be the best form of conditioning when trying to build a more durable body. The best thing you can do is bag work, kicking and punching it as much as you can. Now that we've completed some good conditioning, let's see what happens when we mix our peekaboo boxing concepts with our Kyokushin. Karate Kieth. Karate Kieth. Iron Mike Tyson, one of the most feared men in all of heavyweight boxing. Out of the many unique skills he possessed, one of his strongest was his ability to get on the outside of his opponent using skip steps. He also had an insane physique due to his very intense training schedule. In this part of our training, We're now going to start by doing 100 jabs and 100 crosses. Our goal is to maintain the combination and keep our knees bent down because we're fighting at a lower stance. Considering the fact that many Kyokushin fighters fight square in front of their opponent, incorporating techniques that come from peekaboo boxing, like fighting very low and moving around looking for angles and working the outside of my opponent, it might give me a clear edge in my Kyokushin journey ahead. Next, we're going to set a timer and we're going to do hooks for at least 5 minutes straight. We should be able to get at least 100 if we're going at a steady pace. Hooks may seem simple to the average fighter, but if we're considering a martial art like Kyokushin Karate, doing hooks might give us an advantage considering that most Kyokushin fighters throw forward punches, sacrificing defense for power and speed. Having hooks as an advantage allows us to maintain defense to our face while also being able to deliver devastating blows with speed. Now, we're going to take a minute to draw just a small circle big enough for us to fit right inside. Sorry, my circle looks more like an oval. But we're going to use this small little space to work on our skip steps, 200 in total. With these, our goal is not to go as fast as we can. We want to maintain our balance by staying low. And though I've done skip steps before, I found it extremely hard to do on the sand, almost like I had to focus extra hard on keeping my knees bent in order to maintain my balance. I'm truly starting to see why the skip step was such a dangerous move. When utilized with the proper technique, a skip step can quickly get you to the outside of your opponent without any trouble. Imagine combining that with Kyokushin Karate principles. The possibilities are truly endless. Finally, after almost 3 hours of hard work, we find ourselves at the very end of our training. And now, we're going to do 5 rounds of shadow boxing in the ocean. For the first few rounds, I decided to have a bit more of a kickboxing stance, using my knees a lot, backing up from the opponent, and using my left hand kind of as a range meter to see my distance between me and the opponent. But when I switched to the lower guard, everything changed. My punches felt faster, more fluid, more connected. I was able to create several angles instead of just coming at everything from a forward stance. I was even able to work the outside while simultaneously adding kicks in between it. This feeling, this power, this moment that I had to slow down truly felt phenomenal. I wasn't thinking, I was just moving and reacting. Similar to the feeling a Kyokushin Karateka can have even when he's at his last breath. Or the level-headedness a boxer can have when he knows he's going to knock his opponent out. I could feel it. I knew that something was happening. This was no longer just a training session. This is where the journey was just beginning.